health should be considered when electing our officials to high office, and how something called the Dunning-Kruger effect plays into all this. Should the president be examined before he's sworn in? While many argue this should be a basic requirement, there is no law that states the president must undergo any psychiatric exam. The 25th Amendment exists for Congress to remove the president if he or she is deemed mentally unfit for office. But to date, it's never been enacted to its full extent. So how do we diagnose a sitting president if they refuse to be diagnosed? For now, we can't expect Trump would ever willingly put his position in jeopardy by agreeing to such an exam. What we're left with is varying opinions and armchair.
We are vibing. You know that I like it.
Many instances of erratic and unhinged behavior.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
When the president infamously claimed he was a stable genius, it sparked the discussion all over it. Decide what kind of person would call themselves a stable genius. Well, Valerie Stein from Psych Daily is joining us in the studio today. Hey, Valerie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So what's your read on that kind of self-description?
Well, Perry, what strikes me about this is Trump's use of very stable. It comes across as defensive or insecure. I mean, typically, we see a stable person as someone mild-mannered, thoughtful, consistent in their own line of thinking, secure in who they are and their own limitations. I mean, these aren't necessarily descriptors that come... Perry, if you think of any geniuses that have done so, please, let me know. It reminds me of, what was it that Confucius said? Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. There's actually a term for this, the Dunning-Kruger effect, which you mentioned in the opening. It appears to be painted all over Trump. Dunning and Kruger coined the term which describes someone who is unable to recognize their own shortcomings because of shortcomings. It's a recursive illusion of the mind created by a lack of self-awareness. An ignorant mind can't see its own ignorance. They know that they're colorblind if there's no one to tell them the colors they can't see. What's ironic is that those who are incompetent have a disproportionate amount of confidence and therefore can create a false sense of knowledge. You can see how this Dunning-Kruger effect could become incredibly dangerous if that person has a wide-reaching national platform. There's a clear pattern here, one that is shared with many, let's not mince words here, dictators throughout history.
Right. So would you say this Dunning-Kruger effect is the defining trait that distinguishes a leader from a dictator?
Well, I can't say that there's one thing that makes a lot of these psychological traits running in pairs or groups. The traits that dictators have in common are also the same things that make them a leader. You need to have a certain self-aggrandizing confidence to run for high office. Obama ran on hope, an idealistic torchbearer in his own right. Hello? Brother? Still listening? It makes sense that ego, pride, a sense of purpose are what's needed to run for office. They're the same traits that can go awry once that person is in power. What separates a dictator from, say, a regular leader is a dictator is blinded by power, not humbled by it. That blind spot...
Have a nice day!
And can create a reality distortion field where they can say whatever they want, and it goes unchecked. In fact, these people wear their self-induced knowledge like a badge of honor.
There's actually a precedent now, a sense of pride in believing only what you want to believe, willful ignorance. Can this Dunning-Kruger effect spread into the minds of others, where an entire group of people lacks the tools and awareness to know they're wrong?
I mean, the crowd mentality goes hand in hand with a dictator. It's how they thrive. But dictator or no dictator, the bubbles that have formed online function in a very similar feedback loop as the Dunning-Kruger effect. I mean, how is someone ever going to break out of their bubble if they can never see outside their own bubble? This allows Trump to get away with making up falsehoods because the people who want to believe the things that he says don't have a way to see any other truth.
But do you believe there could be long-term effects on society and having sympathy? Narratives in the news cycle can create alternate realities. Even though facts can be verified at our fingertips, disinformation is more rampant than ever. Maybe that means holding a mirror up to ourselves to see the boundaries of our perspective.
Thank you. Thank you.